I am repping Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, a little bit of Bed-Stuy, and a little bit of Williamsburg now. So we're happy about that. And I am one of the co-chairs of the county committee, and we are so glad that you all are so interested in knowing about the Supreme Court Judicial Forum. And thanks for being here.
So the courts of Kings County play a critical role in the lives of not just voters, but every resident of Brooklyn, whether it's a family matter, a housing dispute, a business conflict, or a criminal proceeding. Our courts are where people turn to for fairness, justice, and the rule of law. Most voters never meet a judge until they or someone they love stand in a courtroom. That's why tonight's forum is important. Supreme Court candidates are nominated through a judicial convention attended by judicial delegates elected from assembly districts across Brooklyn. Before that convention, candidates seeking the Brooklyn Democratic Party's support undergo a screening process, and forums like this give the public an opportunity to hear directly from them. On a very local level, these conversations are made possible by your neighborhood Democratic clubs and district leaders, whether you live in Park Slope, East New York, Bay Ridge, or Flatbush. Every election cycle, you have the opportunity to elect members of your own community to serve as a judicial delegate or even run to become a delegate yourself. Tonight is part of that process. It's an opportunity to make our judicial elections more understandable, to hear directly from the candidates, and to help voters and judicial delegates evaluate the individuals seeking the tremendous responsibility of serving 14-year terms on the New York State Supreme Court. Thank you all for taking the time to join us, for participating in our democratic process, and for helping to strengthen public confidence in our courts. And with that, Renee, if you'll go over the rules of the road for us.
Yes, so tonight we have house rules. I'm sorry about that, everybody, but we do have house rules. And they are as follows. Excuse me, I just got these new glasses with some new medicine. So let me, questions being asked today were submitted by the audience in advance. And the attendees who wish to ask a question and have not yet submitted, one may send it to the host via private chat. Each candidate will have a tight 2-minute introduction. Each candidate will also be asked 2 questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question.
Okay. So as now that we have the rules, we do ask that the candidates please adhere to rules because we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to communicate their platform and that the attendees of the forum have an opportunity to hear each and every candidate. I know it's a tight time constraint, but it's our way of ensuring that everybody has a voice and everyone has a chance to listen in. So having said that,
Josh.
Yes?
Everybody, there's something that I must do before we continue. I must acknowledge our elected officials and our district leaders. What are we without the acknowledgments of our co-leaders and our colleagues? We have Anthony Beckford, District Leader Anthony Beckford. We're so happy that you're here with us, our co-host. And we have Josh Beer, obviously. We have Michael Boomer and our county chair. We want to thank her as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to have and take the time to inform the electorate of Brooklyn.
Oh, thank you. I didn't. We would have been remiss if we hadn't actually now acknowledged the people that helped put into the work to make this happen for us. So now, having said that, we'd like to move on to our first candidate, the Honorable Hemily Patel. Good evening, Judge Patel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hemily Patel. I want to thank everyone for their time today and for the Brooklyn Democratic Party for hosting this forum so that you can hear from all the candidates for Supreme Court this year. I'm honored to be here tonight. I know time is tight, so I'm going to talk fast. My name is Emily Patel. Obviously, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I came here with my parents when I was in first grade, and I never left. From elementary school through to law school, I've always lived in New York City. I love this city. It's so special. I graduated from law school and I went into private practice, and I did learn, and I did landlord tenant law, I did family law, and I learned very intently all the things that people in private practice deal with. And it's very complicated to be a small or solo practitioner with a busy practice. And so I understand those kinds of commitments. But as I progressed in my legal career, I began to understand that, and I always kind of knew that the quality of our lives is very directly and very deeply impacted by those who serve the public. So whether it's the person at the DMV or the bus driver, that the bus you get on, that interaction could change your day. When it comes to being a judge, it could change your life. And I consider myself very privileged to have had the opportunity in 2001 to join the court system as a public servant. I am now in my 26th year of public service. As a public servant, I try to serve the public in the truest sense. And for me, that means that I do my best every day. I bring my best self, and I convey the intention to be my best self, by being at all times honest and fair and courteous to the litigants and the attorneys who appear before me. You know, being in court, it is very difficult. People don't have an understanding the way lawyers do and judges do about what's going to happen, and it could be terrifying. So to treat people with courtesy and respect is incredibly important, and in my courtroom, I practice that every day. Beyond that, I believe that the quality of my work and my persona should inspire confidence in our judicial system. People should understand that the system works, and if I show them that every day, then I've done my part. For me, what makes me different, from 2012 until March 2021, I was what's called a court attorney referee in Richmond County Supreme Court. I actually conducted trials and hearings on various civil matters and on financial issues and matrimonial matters, including lots of monetary issues such as equitable distribution, child support, and maintenance. As a special referee, I conducted bench trials. I did that for 8 years. I issued decisions or reports in a timely manner. I supervised discovery, which is the exchange of information, and I decided motions for interim relief. The Office of Court Administration at that time actually considered me to be a Supreme Court trial part akin to a judge. And not only did I conduct those trials, but I had no court attorney of my own. So I did my own research and my own writing. I had no clerk or assistant of any kind. So I did all the management of the part. I did all the data entry. I filed, I made copies. I entered all my information into the systems that we had to track cases. I did everything. I was a one-woman show. In my personal life, I've always strived to be a positive influence in my various communities.
I'm sorry, Emily Patel.
I'm so sorry. No, sorry. I've gone over. Okay.
We do understand that, and just to let the public know, these are highly accomplished individuals who have done quite a bit of work, and we're asking them to condense like 20, 30 years of experience into 2 minutes. So we're conscious of that, but we also have to cut them off. So having said that,
and by the way, let me say this, colleague, that we have to do some more acknowledgments.
Oh,
if that's okay. All right. So we have our council member and district leader, Mercedes Narcissus. We have the Honorable Annette Robinson. Oh, we love Annette. We have our district leader, Jennifer Foucher. She's in the house. We have our district leader, Felix Ceballos. Right. And that's it for now. And we will be joined by more. Thank you so much. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem, guys. We're still getting the bugs out, and we're gonna, Emily's gonna reclaim her time to answer the questions. I'm also getting text messages from various club members that they're in the waiting room, so the tech team will take care of that. Now, back to our honorable guests. So the first question, Your Honor, is this. Brooklyn's criminal courts have seen repeated backlogs and arraignment delays this year, including people held past the 24-hour legal limit during a February court closure. What role should a Supreme Court justice play in addressing systemic delays like this?
So I just want to clarify, the criminal court, obviously, and the Supreme Court have different um, uh, issues, primarily because the criminal court where I am now, elected to civil, city, and criminal, is the busiest court in the country. We have 60,000 filings.
Wow.
So it's hard to liken the work of the criminal court to the Supreme Court. But of course, the Supreme Court is also incredibly busy. Brooklyn is a huge borough. We are, I think, the third or the fourth largest city in the United States. We do, all the judges and all the buildings do a lot of work. That said, I think that one of the things that's very important for judges to be on time, to be efficient, to do, you know, if you need to spend an extra few minutes doing something, do it. I don't know any of my colleagues that don't work through their lunch or work after hours to make sure all the decisions are written, all the conversations are had. I think that it's important for judges, especially in the criminal court, where we are, to be cognizant of the fact that people are being held in custody, and to get those people out, especially when we're doing arraignments, which is, for people who don't know, that's the first time somebody sees a judge after they're arrested. And that work is so important because the judge is the person who is standing between, you know, their period of being held by NYPD and you know, being able to go home. And I think that people, and I always do work in a diligent manner. Don't take a lot of breaks. All of that is important. And then, you know, and just to be cognizant of this all the time, that you are holding people's lives in your hands, and not to take that very important responsibility for granted. Never slow down. Never take it as, oh, it's just a job, because it isn't. It is a calling, and it is important that we focus on how our lives impact the people that appear before us. There's no answer. If I would say that, you know, honestly, our courts, all our courts, especially our criminal courts, you could use more judges. That's not a big secret. But, you know, I do know that everybody that I know, and Brooklyn's very lucky, works very hard.
Okay. Now, and for your second question, thank you for the first response. What does equal justice under the law mean to you in practice on a docket as high volume and as diverse as this one?
So what that means is everybody gets to come in with a clean slate. Your race, your gender, your sexual orientation doesn't matter. The law is applied fairly and equally to everyone. That said, everybody has a lived experience. I have mine, people have theirs, and different people fall into different things, sometimes because they are as a result of things that they have no control over. Not everybody has access to resources growing up, and it is obviously an unfortunate instance of our lives and our city and our communities that resources aren't equitably and equally shared.
Mhm.
And it is important to acknowledge that, even though you're giving them a clean slate and giving them a fair hearing or trial or day in court, you must understand that not everybody has had the same opportunities. There are people who are indigent, people who are addicted, people who have mental health issues, and you cannot treat those people like they're hardened criminals, because what they need is more than just being incarcerated. Because honestly, just incarcerating people who need help doesn't do anything. I had a case today. I don't want to take a lot of time. There's a gentleman who, and I don't know him very well. This is the first time I had his case today. He was already pled guilty as a sex offender for
Mhm.
forcible touching. He's
Mhm.
picked up his second case. He has other cases. And the offer that the district attorney's office made was that he take another guilty plea. He's already served, he's been incarcerated for almost 6 months, and they wanted him to take another plea as a sex offender. The only problem with that is not the jail time. The problem is if he gets a second sex offender conviction, he will be kicked out of his NYCHA housing. So I had multiple, even on a day where I had 80 cases on, I had conferences, I had a sex victims supervisor come down to my courtroom to talk about an offer that would serve the people of Brooklyn to make sure that this person stopped doing this thing, but also that he got the help that he needed, because keeping him in jail, just incarcerating without having an ability to understand what makes this happen doesn't do anything, because at some point he will get out. And if he gets out and he has no place to live, now he is unhoused and with all these issues that we haven't helped him with. So I sent him back today. He's coming back tomorrow. We have somebody coming down from one of our resource coordinators from one of the organizations that we work with, and they're going to assess him to see if there's some help, whether it's mental health, substance abuse, because we don't know. He's just been incarcerated. So if there is some way where we can protect the people of Brooklyn, but also give this person who clearly has been the victim of various things that are beyond his control, and maybe he doesn't understand, an opportunity to see if he can make a change. And that change would only serve the people of Brooklyn. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry.
So part of what I got from that response is that we're not just treating Brooklyn residents as numbers on a docket. We're looking at the mentality of the human being. And so thank you very much, the Honorable Hemily Patel, and good luck with your candidacy.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
And Renee, I'm going to hand it over to you for the next candidate.
Thank you. Next up, do we have the Honorable Lola Waterman in the house? Come on up. Well, Barker used to say, come on down. Lola Waterman. Guys in the back, is she here? Okay. Well, is she here?
Well, if she isn't available, I think we might
move on.
Linda.
Let's move on. Linda Wilson. The Honorable Linda Wilson. Any word from Linda Wilson? Okay. I see Linda Wilson. How are you today? Got your mute button on? Ah, we see you. How are you?
Good evening. Slowly but surely, I am appearing. I am having a slight adjustment issue with my camera, but I'll work my way through that. Without further ado, I want to thank you all for inviting me to the forum, and I am happy to participate. Good evening to many familiar faces, my esteemed district leaders, as well as my colleagues and any members of the public. It's good to be here.
So I'm happy to see you, Miss Wilson. I haven't seen you in a while. Yes, thank you so very much. Listen, so I have a question for you. You know, we are Kings County. We're Brooklyn.
Brooklyn strong.
Brooklyn strong. Brooklyn all day. Spread love is the Brooklyn way,
I'm
right?
a third generation Brooklynite with 5 generations of Brooklynites living within my family in Brooklyn currently.
Yes,
so it's all Brooklyn all day.
I love that. You know, one of the most important things of a district leader's job and their role and the duties is to select judges. I believe that's one of the most important things, the selection of judges. And usually in my day, when I would question and meet with the judicial candidates, one of the things that I would not, consider with all my heart and soul would be the education of the judges, because you all are just highly educated. All of you are highly educated. So we know that you guys have the genius, right? But what I was always concerned about is your compassion and your care, your sympathy, your empathy, your understanding, your the willingness to rightly divide law, which is important because when people, the average person goes before a judge, their life basically is in your hands.
Right.
Their home could be in your hands. And so I want to know, outside of education, can you tell me something about you that speaks to the heart and soul of Brooklynites, other than education? But what can we know, and how can we know that you're going to be on that bench doing the right thing for the people who will come before you?
You know, you are speaking my heart actually and my mind. I am the child of parents who suffered from disabilities my entire life. And so I have a level of empathy as a result of having to help them navigate some of the challenges they had in life. My mother was literally illiterate due to a learning disability that prevented her from learning how to read. I'm the oldest of her three children, and I was the one who would go to doctor's appointments and all sorts of school visits and the like, and even to court when my parents were involved in a family court battle over who would get custody of us. And at a very young age, starting at age 6, I was keenly aware of how to become an advocate and a voice for those who are not seen, not validated, and certainly not heard. And so my heart goes out to anyone who is a litigant in court over the course of 30 years, 34 years actually. And I became a court attorney 34 years ago when my baby was only 2 weeks old because I was passionate about taking a job in the court system so that I could be the change that I wanted to see. And I say that from the point of empathy and compassion, but also from a point of knowledge. I live for the law. I decided that I was going to be a lawyer when I was 9 years old. I was a voracious reader, completed law school at 23, and went into the court system 34 years ago with the point of ensuring that justice was not just a mantra or an ideal, but that it was put into words and action. And so, over the course of my tenure as a court attorney, both in the appellate division, Supreme Court, surrogates court, now in lower criminal court, and serving as a volunteer across many courts, in different boroughs, I do understand that people need to have issues addressed, even when their attorneys don't highlight those issues in any intelligible way. And that happens because attorneys have very heavy dockets. I'm caseloads. Judges have very heavy dockets, but I'm accustomed to working in high volume environments. And I am also accustomed to working, burning the midnight oil, to use an old term expression. And so I put in the time, the energy, the knowledge, and the passion that I have to make sure that the least among us, who are typically court users, because rich people, they resolve their disputes outside of courts generally. But those who are at the bottom have to go somewhere to get recourse and to force it, and others of us are dragged into court against our will. And so with that being stated, I do everything that I can in my heart and my mind and within my legal power to address those concerns. I live it as a lifelong Brooklynite. I get the pain. I understand the problems. I see the issues all day. I ride the bus, the subway, I walk to and from work, and I've been I've been doing this for my entire tenure. And I think I'm at time. I love the law. I love my work. I live for this, so I can talk your head off about any issue, and I do apologize for that in advance. Feel free to just pull that cane out and drag me off by the neck when when you need to.
So, Renee, you're on mute. I didn't know if you have a second. You've had a second question for Judge Wilson?
Yes, Judge. Um, you know, here in New York, everything is about hustle and bustle. Everybody's trying to get to where they're trying to go. You get to the grocery store, you want to hurry up on the line, you're trying to rush, 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 so you can get in and get out. So, something that you mentioned just now, you talked about working with the dockets and things like that. We're in Brooklyn, everything is so jam-packed. What is your plan, or do you have a plan for getting through these dockets in a meaningful time? Something that people don't have to come back 100 times, right? And or not have a backlog of
Right.
docket numbers. How can you efficiently like move that along?
Many times I know that if I give a short adjournment date,
Mhm.
that people are going to come back to court and nothing is going to happen on that second date. Nothing at all. In criminal court, people are awaiting discovery. In civil court and Supreme Court, they're also awaiting the discovery process to unfold, which on the civil side in the Supreme Court could sometimes take years. I've been a litigant myself. I have experienced that kind of delay. There are ways to combat it, but there are also ways while people are waiting for justice to be dispensed and for the process to work
Mhm.
the way that it's supposed to, the judges could give longer adjourn dates. That doesn't mean we are delaying the cases, but we are cognizant of all the processes that have to go on in between. And so while I sit in criminal court, I let defendants know that cases are going to take a good 90 days before the discovery process is fulfilled. And once that's met, there may be motion practice that could take another couple of months. And from there, you may have hearings and trial. If a plea is extended, in the felony court where I'm sitting this week, there's delay built into that because there are certain waivers and requirements that the court must satisfy with the help of both counsel, both the assistant district attorneys and the defense attorney, to ensure that a plea is knowing, willful, that it's entered knowingly, voluntarily, willfully, and that certain things that have to be waived in order to close that plea deal are in perfect order. And so delay is not only because of backlog, delay is many times because of the process. And the other thing that I think that we could utilize to help with delay is spread out the judicial resources. I have friends while I'm working late into the night in criminal court who are sitting in court parts elsewhere in the county and in the city with nothing to do. That is outrageous. No judge should be sitting anywhere for 4 hours or all afternoon or sometimes all day with nothing to do, whether they're on reserve or there's just nothing to do. It doesn't make sense. That offends me as a citizen.
Mm.
And I wish that we can have that conversation to help reconfigure the resources that we do have so that we can use them more efficiently and economically.
Thank you. Time. Okay, back to you, Josh.
Okay, so a couple of things before we move on to our next judicial candidate, who will be the Honorable Judge Ellen Edwards. She'll be logging in right now. First, I'd like to acknowledge Judge Mark Partnow, who is also on the forum with us. As many of you know, he is the Vice Chairman of the Kings County Democratic County Committee. Before I have Judge Edwards join us, she's logging in as we speak. Renee, would you mind going over the rules of the road one more time so that those who had not logged in earlier are fully aware? I'm sorry, Renee. You're on mute.
Okay, here we go.
And while Renee is doing that, Judge Edwards should be logged in. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to run over the rules again. Questions being asked today were submitted by an audience in advance. Attendees who wish to ask a question and have not yet submitted one may send it to the host via private chat. Each candidate will have a tight 2-minute Introduction. Each candidate will be asked 2 questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question.
Excellent.
Josh?
And welcome, Judge Ellen Edwards. Thank you for joining us. Oh,
She's on mute. Okay, got it. Yes.
Okay, good evening.
good evening. It's a pleasure to see you.
It's nice to be seen. It's better to be seen than to be viewed, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Edwards. I've been a judge here in Kings County for 9 years. If I'm not successful in this process, you will see me on the ballot next year because I would very much like to continue as a judge here in Kings County. I have been practicing law since 1989. I've served as a litigator. I've been a mediator and negotiator, community involved volunteer. I've been a mentor to many, one of which who ran for judge this year. So I'm very proud of that association affiliation. And I'm a gardener in my community. I'm very involved in assisting my neighbors in doing better for themselves. And that encompasses many different things. I love being a lawyer. I love being a judge. I love serving my community with the skills that I have developed over the years. And I like seeing people come away from the court feeling that they have been heard.
Mhm.
You may not be successful, but you will have that opportunity to be heard. And I'd let them know. I said, listen, a decision by me doesn't necessarily mean happiness for you. It's better that you have a conversation with and I say that both to attorneys and to self-represented litigants and the people who are, it's mixed. We're self-represented. I said, it's better that you have a discussion about the issue and see if you can resolve it or see how much you can resolve. We will assist you in strengthening those areas where there's no agreement, or we can have a trial and I will make a decision. I have no problem making the decision, but I think when people have an opportunity to be involved in the process, they come away with a better sense that they have had, like they have a stake in the game. Is that my 2 minutes?
Yes, that was actually pretty good on course. So, Judge Edwards, you've had a long career in the judicial system.
Yes, I have.
So, my first question for you is: programs like Brooklyn Justice Initiative use supervised release and diversion instead of pretrial detention for many defendants. What are your views on the balance between alternatives to incarceration and public safety, if you can answer that question?
Each case has to be determined on its individual basis. So if in terms of criminal court, you have to look at the rap sheet and see what the proclivity of that person is. Some people, releasing them right away is not the safest thing for the community. Some people being involved with, supervision, etc., that will help them lead them to the right path. And some people don't even need to, maybe an arrest was really unnecessary and they're there, not exactly under the full color of the law, let's say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is a case by case determination that you have to make to see what kind of record does the person have, what kind of connections they have in the community, and then what facts are being alluded to at arraignments by both the district attorney and by the defense attorney. Because everybody has their view of what occurred, but they weren't there. And so having people from the community there when you're arraigned, that's a good thing. So then the judge can see that you're just not, somebody who has no ties or no connection to the community. And that helps you make a better decision as to whether or not the real goal is whether or not this person is going to return to court, participate in the process, and whether or not they're going to be released and hurt other people. That's what the balance is. And so looking at those other, you have to take a holistic view of the person and what they've done or what they've been accused of doing, what their mental health state is. That's another thing you have to take into consideration. So supervised release can be a very good thing. but it's not for everybody.
Mhm.
Some people are very vicious, and they will hurt other people.
Yes.
If
Yes.
they, if, you know, and I'm not saying that every, you know, that you should be jailed, etc. But if we look at the overall circumstances and we see that, you know, somebody that goes slashing people on a train station, what am I supervising?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you for that answer. Very often in the media, I know you don't comment on stuff like that, but very often in the media, I want folks to know that when we do have those supervise release situations, when they sometimes very rarely go awry, it becomes a question of, oh, there's something's wrong with the system. And so I felt it was important for us to ask that question. Now, my next question for you, Your Honor, is given how often much of your work will be subject to appellate review, how do you think about your relationship to the appellate court that oversees your decisions?
Well, first of all, you have to have a good grounding in the law itself. And in doing that, one is by way of your experience, your knowledge of people, and also your observance of how the appellate courts have been ruling on the particular issues that you've been dealing with.
Mhm.
So, not to say, you know, everybody, as I always say, a coin has three sides. It has the top, it has the bottom, and then it has that rim around it. And so when you are making a decision, you have to be aware of what the two sides are, how the appellate court is viewing it, and then also you have to be sensitive to the facts in your particular case.
Yes.
So if the facts in your case dictate you separate from what the court has previously ruled on, then for my purpose, that's where you go. Then, you know, the reason we have the right to counsel is that a man wrote on a napkin to the Supreme Court and said that that's how that's how we got that right. A person wrote on a napkin to the Supreme Court and said, I had a trial and I didn't have an attorney and I think I deserve one. So you have to be cognizant that the law is an ever evolving thing,
Mhm.
and you have to make that presentation through your decisions that maybe what the legislature envisioned and what's actually happening on the ground is not merging. And so the court, you know, but can through its decision make the legislature aware, well, this law in its application is not working so good for the people in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
And so we need to speak to you about that, or
Perfect.
to the courts. The way in which you have been ruling on this, although there's precedent, it's not good precedent, and it's not working for the people here in our county.
Thank you, Judge Edwards. We appreciate you explaining that, as well as giving some background and historical context as to why those things are the way they are. And we also want to add for the public's clarity that the appellate court is akin to, for New York State, to the Supreme Court of the United States. So as decisions are made on the lower level and get appealed, they flow up to that court. We don't name the Supreme Court of New York City or New York State.
Hey,
It's they're referred to as the appellate court. Thank you, Judge Edwards.
you're very welcome.
Okay. Renee?
Okay, Judge, you know, I would like to say that you are, oh, can I ask the question or no, this was someone else? Okay.
No, sorry. I got to monopolize Judge Edwards. But you will have the next person.
I have the next person. Okay. Chevelle Mims. Judge Mims. Is she here? Okay, so let's bring on up. Let's bring on up Judge Lola Waterman.
Hmm.
Lola Waterman, I understand she's here. Come on down.
So as Judge Waterman logs in, again, we want to thank the members of the public and the district leaders, as well as the general team that backs up the county organization for putting this together. And now, without further ado, Renee Collmore and Judge Lola Waterman.
How are you, Judge?
I am wonderful. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You look amazing.
Well, so do you. I love those shades. Good evening.
Good evening. We are so happy. We are thrilled to have you with us tonight. There's so many people on from Brooklyn, and they want to know more about you. They
Okay,
said
well, that's why I'm
we.
here.
Yes, yes, you are in the house indeed. So, Judge, I really, really have admired you over the course of years. Uh, you have kept going, and that's what this is about. And one of the things that I feel is urgent and critical that we need in Brooklyn are good people. When I first ran, I always ran on we need better people in office. We need good people in office. And I can say today that I feel that you're one of those good people. Um, and you have a great family. And you come from, I know you're out there in Bed-Stuy, right? You're out there in Bed-Stuy. And
Do
there's
or
so
die.
many, yeah, do or die, right? And we love places like Bed-Stuy. And so I would like to know, as you're vying for this, what are your what's in your heart for Bed-Stuy coming through the legal system, the judicial process? There's so many things going on over in Bedford Stuyvesant, but all over Brooklyn,
Right.
particularly something called deed theft.
Mhm.
Um, is there something that we can hear from you that we can take back home with us to say and to feel more comfortable to know that we have someone out there who's going to stand up and not let this happen to the elders and to the people who have worked so hard for their homes? We need people who can protect us. What do you say on these things?
Well, um, this can take ages to address all the issues. So, first of all, good evening to everyone that is listening. My name is Lola Waterman. I am currently sitting in family court. And before I was assigned to family court, I was sitting in civil court where I handled a variety of civil court matters. Before I became elected, I spent about 15 years of my legal career serving at the Supreme Court level, the court that I'm running for now. And I first started as an attorney representing people in Supreme Court in matters that involve deed theft, like you mentioned, in guardianship matters, with estate planning. I then went on to becoming a principal law clerk to a Supreme Court justice. And the judge that I worked for covered guardianship proceedings. She was one out of the two judges at the time that was overseeing guardianships in Brooklyn. From there, I also served as a court evaluator. I served as a counsel for allegedly incapacitated persons. I served as special referee, and I assisted in the pro se office where I was helping self-represented litigants navigate the court system. So more specifically about the question that you asked, deed theft has been something we've been seeing in the news lately. But as you know, deed theft is not new. Deed theft, particularly in Bed-Stuy, has been very prominent for decades. Even before I became a lawyer, it became an issue. And, the number one problem, there are many causes to this problem, but what I see in the community is the lack of estate planning, the lack of a plan for transferring generational wealth. And so it's important to everyone listening out there that we always have to make sure that we're planning for our future. No one knows if they're going to have any illnesses or any mental health disorders that may influence their ability to make decisions for themselves. So making sure that you have things in place, whether it's a trust, whether it's a will, have those things in place to protect your assets. Also, we have to be careful when we do write our wills, when we do draft our trust, who we leaving things to. I know that many houses, when I first moved to Brooklyn, the face of the community is contrastedly different from the face of the community today. And I remember that there was a property to the right of us where, the property, the owner passed away. She did not have any estate plan in place. She had 3 kids. One of the children drew out all the equity from the house and absconded. The other children moved in there and weren't paying any of the mortgages. The property ended up in foreclosure, and next thing you know, it was sold and out of the family, out of their generational wealth. So it's always important to make sure that we put things in place, that we are educated enough. And this is one of the reasons why I started the Know Your Rights seminars that I do in the community. I started seeing things like this in the community, and it really broke my heart. And also, as a pastor's wife, these were issues that people brought to me after church that they wanted to discuss. And so what I started doing was sending out a survey once a year to everyone that I knew and asking them about legal issues they were experiencing. And from the feedback that I got from that, I was able to, send out and organize these seminars. And so whether it was the Know Your Rights seminars, whether it was bringing judges into the community to educate people, and I think I just saw a message that said 10 seconds left. So that was the long answer to your question, Miss Renee.
Renee, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Judge. And thank you for that. We know that you would definitely be an asset, and we know that you'll clearly be able to look into these things to inform the community of what it is that we are fearing so much in our communities concerning our homes. Now, let me ask you, how do you feel about, I'm going a little off the script from the professional questions, right? But sometimes, people would like to hear more from the judges. How do you feel being a pastor's wife going into the Supreme Court? Does that affect you any kind of way?
No, not in any other way than it's affecting me now as a family court judge or previously as a civil court judge. I think, if anything at all, it makes me aware, keenly aware of things that are happening in our community. Because on Sunday, having these discussions, I'm not on the bench, we're just having a heart-to-heart talk, right? When people come with problems that they're facing or issues that they're facing. So I don't see it as being mutually exclusive. I think that being a pastor's wife helps me to be culturally and socially aware of what's happening in my community. And it is those lived experiences that I take to the bench with me every day, and that helps inform the decisions that I make from the bench every day.
Josh?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Your Honor, for joining us and sharing your experiences such that the voters out there get to know who you are before the convention.
All right. Thank you for having me. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Next up, we're going to have the Honorable Mark Kagan. So Mark will be logging in just a few seconds. That question regarding deep theft was very timely and important, and I'm glad you asked it, Renee, because as you know, it is a topic that's in the news. And yet, as Judge Waterman pointed out, Bed-Stuy is almost synonymous with deep theft. That is not to say it's not happening anywhere else in Brooklyn, but it is, in fact, a very critical and important subject that has come to the forefront at the moment. So it's good to know that the people who are presiding over some of these issues are from the communities that these issues are disproportionately based. And now we have with us the Honorable Mark Kagan. Mark, welcome. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
So if you would give us a quick introduction of yourself, and then we would go on to ask you your 2 questions.
Okay, so my name is Mark Kagan. First of all, thank you for having this this forum and this event. My name is Mark Kagan. I am a sitting civil court judge. I was elected in 2024. I've been in the court system for 30 years. I worked for a judge for 28 years before becoming a judge myself. In that time, I worked everywhere. First, we worked in the criminal court for 5 years. After that, we moved over to the civil side, and I've been in the civil side ever since. We did a long stint doing regular civil law, which is like, a lot of negligence. We did foreclosures, people losing their homes, and just general litigation. After that, we did guardianships for 9 years. That's people that can't take care of themselves, that are incapacitated, and it's a lot of shepherding the families, and the relatives, and also the incapacitated person. And after that, we did that for 9 years. And after that, we did commercial litigation, which is more sophisticated, more harder cases, I would say. We did that for about 7 years. And in that time, I conferenced thousands of cases. I've drafted thousands of decisions. And there's very little that I haven't seen in the courthouse.
Okay. So, Judge Kagan, you have presided over, you just called it, when you're who's responsible for the adults guardianship, right?
Right.
Could you speak to us to some of the more difficult aspects of that from what you see in the court, the perspective of
yes,
litigants, as well as your role?
So usually a family member, or perhaps a neighbor, or perhaps even Adult Protective Services will file a petition that somebody's incapacitated. Usually that's not a question of dispute. The person is unfortunately incapacitated, they're elderly, and that's usually not a dispute. Sometimes it is, usually most of the time it's not. The disputes arise usually between family members, fighting over basically money. That's basically what it is.
Just for clarity, give us a situation where somebody would be described as incapacitated.
So incapacitated generally means that they can't engage in their daily functions. They can't get dressed. They can't take their medicine. They don't know where they are. They don't know who the president is. They don't know what day of the week it is. And they just can't function in society.
Okay.
Of course, there's a range of, there's a range, obviously, but that's generally what it is. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's say, God forbid, grandma becomes incapacitated. What are the major issues? You said money, or an example of something that would happen where you would have to step in and say, okay, sister A and brother B, I'm going to have to step in here.
Correct. Because sister A says, I'm the better person to take care of grandma. I'm always there. I visit her every day. I'm the one, and I should also be in charge of her assets. And brother B says, no, I'm much better. I have the ability to take her to the doctor. I have a car. She doesn't have a car. I live closer. She doesn't live as close. It should be me. Many times, I don't mean to say bad, many times the intentions are noble. They really want to take care of their parents. Many times it's not. So the court has to see exactly what's going on, what are the intentions, and who exactly would be the better fit. If the court can't agree, they'll appoint a third party, which is not always ideal.
Okay. Now, so Judge Kagan, you're currently in civil court?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you acting Supreme or?
No.
Okay. You want to be elevated now to Supreme Court.
Right.
What do you feel that you would be one of the better candidates for this? We have great candidates. Why would you be able to edge out some of the other great candidates?
I don't want to say anything bad about any of my colleagues. They're all great, and I work with so many of them. I just think I have a lot of experience. I've seen a lot of the courthouse, a lot of what goes on in the courthouse, and I would be hard-pressed to find an issue that came across my desk that I would not know how to deal with it.
That was a very classy response, and we do appreciate it. It speaks to your judicial temperament as well. Thank you very much for participating and sharing a little bit with the public about yourself and your work, and definitely explaining how the situation works in your aspect of the courts.
Thank you.
With that, thank you. I'm going to and good luck in your candidacy. With that, I'm going to pass it on to you, Renee.
I think Ms. Collymore, you're on mute.
Yes, Renee, you're on mute.
Thank you for going like this. So another acknowledgement, we have our district leader, Kanisha Tram Cooper, out of Bedford Stuyvesant. Thank you for being here. And next, we would call Chevelle Mims.
No, actually, not Chevelle Mims. We skipped Betsy Jean-Jacques. We have to
Betsy Jean-Jacques. I love that. Come on up, be honorable. While we're waiting for her,
yeah. While as we wait, judicial temperament for me is how judges treat people in court. Now, definitely the judge is there to mete out the law, but there is a level of respect and conduct that even though the judge is basically king of that courtroom, that you anticipate and hope for from a judge. So that is something that as these judicial candidates come to our community and speak with us, we do observe and we do pay attention to. Members of the community will come up to us and say, oh, I got to meet so-and-so. I do hope they make it because I like the way they engage. I think they're very respectful. And that's very important to all communities, and especially in Central Brooklyn. And now we do have Betsy Jean-Jacques, so I'll let Renee start off with her questions and the introduction.
Good evening.
How are you? Good evening. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be seen.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Tell me about it. Well, we thank you for being here tonight and making us a priority, making Brooklyn Nights a priority. And we thank you. Listen, I have a question for you. How do you think that I'm concerned about things being so outdated? A lot of things in Brooklyn and all over New York City are outdated. How and what can you do to bring us up to date when it comes to law? When it comes to law, how can we, be a little more modern?
Okay, so do I do, oh, my intro. Okay. All right. So good evening to everyone, and thank you to the district leaders for holding this. And thank you for all of you who came out tonight to see this. I am Betsy Jean-Jacques. I'm currently an acting Supreme Court Justice. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I was born to parents who immigrated from Haiti. I attended Syracuse University, where I obtained a joint degree and a Juris Doctorate, and a master's in social work. And for almost 20 years, I've been a dedicated public servant. I chose to pursue a degree in the law because I wanted to understand the law and the human condition. I was elected as a New York City Civil Court judge, and I began my judicial career in family court in Manhattan. And in family court, I heard matters that affected children and families, including juvenile delinquency, custody and visitation, child abuse and neglect matters, just to name a few areas. As I indicated, I am currently serving as an acting Supreme Court Justice. I hear matrimonial matters, aka divorce matters, and I do still preside over family court juvenile delinquency matters and custody visitation matters in Manhattan. I was there this morning. And I also preside over felony arraignment parts on designated weekends and holidays. And prior to becoming a judge, I worked for an agency called Mental Hygiene Legal Service. I spent almost 12 years advocating for adults and children diagnosed with mental illness. I did guardianship cases, I represented people who were victims of elder abuse, and then I became a principal law secretary, which I did for almost 6 years, where I saw all facets of the law and honed my research and writing skills and my negotiation skills. I am an active member of the Bar Association. I am a fan of educational programs. I've given them to lawyers and judges on mental health, implicit bias, and legal writing. I am an active member of my community, and it's important to me, because of where I came from and because of how I grew up, to make sure that the future generation doesn't have the experience that I have. And by doing that, I prepare students for law school, college students for law school. I mentor, I have students, and I hope that even though I'm currently an acting Supreme Court Justice, I don't want to act. I want the full thing. I was elected by the people, and it would be an honor to be elected by the people again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, with regard to your question, one of the things that, oh, you're on mute.
Renee, you're on mute.
Oh, I was asking, what do you do to stay current with the law?
So, one of the things that happened for me as I had been working as a mental hygiene lawyer, doing everything that has to do with mental hygiene law, and then I transitioned to doing all of the civil work. And one of the things that I did with my judge, and I still do now, every Wednesday, the appellate division cases come out. I read them. So that I can make sure that I'm up to date on that. I create little books for myself so that I know different sections of the law. When I was in Manhattan, it's not the same appellate division. Here in Brooklyn, it's the second department. In Manhattan, it's the first department. Those come out on Thursday. So on Thursday, I get my little list and I read as much as I can on the areas. So to stay current, because it's our job to stay current. We need to know what's going on so that we can really, when people appear before us, really tell them that and ensure them that we're really staying up to date. We're current. I'm, abreast of the law because I am a public servant. You're coming to me for help, and I owe it to you to make sure that I know what I'm doing.
That sounds great. That sounds great. And thank you for that. And secondly, I would like to ask, what if you get to become our Supreme Court judge, what do you bring to the table?
One of the things that I bring to the table uniquely is before I was a lawyer, I was a social worker. I have seen people at their most vulnerable moments. I understand when people come before me that sometimes they're not only dealing with the thing that they've come before me with. I represented the mentally ill. One of the things that made me want to become a judge is because I saw so many times that before my client even got there, nothing they say has credibility. And they were not a person who has an illness, they were the illness, the schizophrenic, the depressed person. And I think that sometimes people only see what's on the docket, but sometimes you have, especially with the kids and families, that there's something else going on than the gun charge that this child is on. There's something else going on than the runaway. So I have to ask those questions, and I do ask those questions. And when I see, and listen, from experience with working with the mentally ill, I can see when sometimes things are not, going so well for someone, and I recognize the emotional toll that coming to court has. And I tell people before they start their trial, listen, I know that this is going to be difficult. And you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. And I used to say that to my clients. I still say it to the litigants who appear before me. If you need a moment, let me know. We'll take that moment. And it's important. And that's something that I have built into my judging. My entire career was in the Supreme Court. All the cases that I tried were in the Supreme Court. And I think that experience and that recognition of humanity plays a big role. Knowing when to listen, knowing where to let people go a little bit. All of that is the skills that I bring.
Excellent. Thank you. Renee?
Oh, I asked the second question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
This is Josh. It's over to you now.
Well, so Betsy, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, and we wish you all the best with your candidacy as well.
Thank you.
All right. So up next, we have the Honorable Rena Malik. As Rena comes up, it's, hearing Betsy and some of the other candidates, it's always interesting to hear what it is that a lot of these candidates did before they were necessarily even lawyers or judges, etc., because that does actually help inform their decision making. And now we have another highly qualified candidate, Rena Malik. Rena, if you would just just introduce yourself before we start asking you the questions.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to all of the leaders and electeds that are on the and judicial delegates that are on the call. Thank you to District Leader Pierre, Vice Chair Collymore, Representative Fort Greene, yes, um, and all of our neighbors. So my name is Rena Malik, and I grew up in a first generation family. I was expected to go to med school and become a doctor, but I defied my parents' expectations and perhaps even my own by pursuing my passions, which was at first for the for international relations and then the law. I graduated from the top of my class in New York law, where I served as an editor on the New York Law School Law Review. I worked for a federal judge in the U.S. Second Circuit Court of Appeals at DC 37, and then in private practice. I joined the court system in 2013 and I never left. I found my home. I was a law clerk and excuse me, I was a law clerk for over 10 years in the Supreme Court in both Brooklyn and Manhattan, as well as the Second Department Appellate Division, which is an honor by itself because it's a very competitive process to join the pool. During that time, I gained a substantial experience in a wide range of matters and within many different parts, way too many to list here, but I defer to my resume for that. I conducted conferences, drafted numerous decisions on procedural issues, and practically every substantive area that is heard, substantive area law that's heard in the Supreme Court civil term, many of which were selected for publication by the state reporter, which infers its legal significance. And now, as a judge, I still do all of that plus more, having had the experience of presiding over numerous bench trials and jury trials. And I try to fulfill all of these duties with efficiency and accuracy because every case means something to someone. I work with integrity and honesty in everything I say and do because that's how I remain faithful to the law, and that's what people deserve. Litigants also deserve respect and human dignity in our courts. And in that vein, I firmly believe that diversity and inclusion in the courts is important. Having a diverse judiciary that reflects the people that it serves promotes confidence and trust in the system. And so I'm very proud to have been the first South Asian American that was ever elected as a judge in Brooklyn's history. And to me, it's more than just being a person of color. I believe we all have to work to put the work into achieving equal access and inclusion collectively. And I spend a lot of time to pay it forward to do just that by organizing and participating in events within the court, active participation in many bar associations, having lots of interns, and being a mentor to so many. And in the interest of time, I will defer to my resume for more of those details, which also lists honors and awards I've received for demonstrating that commitment to the diversity and legal profession in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we're very happy to have you. Brooklyn has benefited from the fact that you decided not to pursue medicine and instead pursue law. You also talked about efficiency. So I'm going to ask you this question. Brooklyn was the pilot borough for an e-filing in Superior Criminal Court and and we saw a 15% increase in case depositions from expanded case processing reforms. How do you think technology and procedural reforms should be factored into modernizing the court system?
Thank you for that question and for all of the questions. I've been listening and they're all very thoughtful. Yes, e-filing would not only be the technological pathway forward that we all need to, I guess, that we all should be transitioning to. There are certain cases, even in the civil court, that are now going to be mandatory e-filing. I think that it actually enhances procedural justice in some ways, where any litigants can easily go to the website and see all of the filings, see everything that's happened in the case before. Maybe they had defaulted, and they'll be able to get, rather than having to come to the court to wait in line at a clerk's office and find all these papers. So it enhances and then it makes things quicker. You want to send correspondence to the court, you could do so easily. And there are a lot of things that, I mean, we also talking about the technological courtroom, right? I mean, there is a online version that has not been made widely used yet, but where it's specifically designed for that purpose of having like a trial or proceedings with ease, virtually. And, I do believe that that also is a great pathway forward, especially for people who live out of state. We get tons, just for example, in small claims court, when you're suing your former landlord for a security deposit, you know, it's because you left and they didn't give it, they maybe allegedly didn't give it back, and you reside in a different state. And so it's really hard to have them to come here just to get some of their money back. So out of state, elderly, people who, you know, upstate, it's a really big issue for people to get to the courts, but even in Brooklyn itself, it could take you over an hour and a half to maybe take two buses and a subway. So it would help a lot in that kind of procedural justice. I don't know if I'm out of time, but
Yeah, and I'll ask you the second question. It'll be a little bit shorter amount of time for you to respond, but where do you see the biggest gap between how the justice system is designed to work and how people in Brooklyn actually experience it? Big question, little bit amount of time.
oh, that's a huge question. Because there's so the biggest gap in how it should work versus what they get.
Yes.
Right. I would say a lot of it is timeliness. People want answers and they want answers now. You want to get them right, of course, but people also need to move on with their lives. And so there's a lot of things that that we could do as a court system in terms of staffing, more judges, more clerks, more court officers, more space available to really do justice for everybody. I would also say that I do bring that efficiency to the table. I remember inheriting a part of over 100 outstanding motions, and within 3 months brought that down to less than 35. It's about getting, again, because I love my job. I could be here all day, every day for the foreseeable future. But I know that most people don't want to spend more time here to have to come to court after court appearance with still or adjourn things with nothing done.
Excellent. Thank you, Judge Malik, for your time. And that was a very efficient response to a very tough question.
Thank you.
We wish you well with your candidacy.
Thank you so much.
I think you were muted. Sorry about that. Not on my part.
I was just saying thank you to everyone who organized this, and have a great night.
Thank you. Renee?
Thank you. So come on down. Next, we have Judge Chevelle Mims. Are you here with us?
So as Chevelle comes on, we're down to our last two candidates that will be speaking. We thank everyone for hanging on tight with us because this is very important. And if you're here listening, bear in mind that your presence here represents thousands of other Brooklynites who are either unaware or don't know the process. So you represent quite a few people. We do hope that you will share this information with your neighbors and family as well. And with that, Judge Chevelle Mims.
How are you, Judge?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you? It's nice to see you.
It is nice to see you as well. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, and good evening to everyone in attendance.
Judge, we are so concerned today in the society that we live in. There's something has been on our backs now. It's creeping up. It's creeping up. It's called AI. Have you ever heard of it? And as you know, the New York courts are actively developing AI to be used in the courts. And do you feel that it's appropriate? And what do you think about it being used within the judicial proceedings? Should it be used in judicial proceedings? What do you think about that?
Well, thank you for that question. So I think that AI is here, and I think it's here to stay, and we have to figure out how we are going to navigate AI and balance some of its risks. So one of the things that the courts have been doing is we're at this point constantly receiving opportunities to learn more about AI, what some of the issues and quirks are, We know that AI sometimes lives in fantasy land. We know that attorneys utilize AI. It saves them a great deal of time when they're developing briefs and arguments, etc. But sometimes it will provide erroneous information. And so the courts have developed a rule, I think Part 161 or something like that. We've developed a rule, and it sets out sort of the expectations and the requirements for counsel. And it does require that they provide an affirmation to the court addressing whether or not they utilize AI in developing whatever communication, brief, a motion, a response to a motion, etc. Because as judges, when an attorney provides you a motion or opposes a motion and they're citing case law, uh, we we expect that that case law is accurate, and it's not always the case. So the courts are coming along and certainly developing some rules to so that we can navigate this new world with AI as a component. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, indeed. Thank
Yes.
you. So my next question is a simple question.
Yes.
As you're looking to be on the Supreme Court here in Brooklyn, we need good people. We need good people. And so where do you feel that you fit in as far as making your mark? So when that day comes, that in between that dash, what should we be able to say about you? What type of judge will they say that you would have been, that you were?
You know, I want to really thank you for that question. And really it makes me reflect. It makes me reflect on just how my life has developed just over the course of my life. And you know, a lot of my colleagues, my friends, you know, they're able to say that they were Brooklyn born and bred. And, you know, I am an African American woman with Indian heritage whose family is, you know, from the Mississippi Delta in Upper Mississippi and Memphis, Tennessee. And as a young child, you know, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would have the opportunity to first have developed the level of knowledge that I've developed over the years, but also to pour it out, in service in a community that I'm a part of now for over 30 years, where I've raised my children, where my grandchildren now are, and that means so much to me. So one of the things that I bring to the world and to the bench, I think, is everything that's occurred in that dash from sunrise to sunset. I'm a person who's just developed good character, integrity over the years. I've worked brick by brick. I've built a life, and I've adhered to what we know about honesty and hard work and repetition and hard work and how that develops. And particularly as a judge, you know, I just have certain sensibilities. My sensibilities are informed by my experiences, and I have very real experiences. And so empathy and utilizing my measure of discretion, knowing where discretion is, how to utilize it to balance the playing field. Like those aren't quantum leaps in logic for me to get to as a judge. And I just would like to leave the bench with people being able to say that Judge Mims was a great judge. She was smart. She was thoughtful. She led on the bench. She understood that she was a public servant. She was passionate about what she did. This was a remarkable woman. So thank you for that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Mims, and good luck with your candidacy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is that all the time I have? I was having so much fun talking to you.
We were enjoying it as well, but you know.
But we've got to move on.
Yes.
I really did enjoy that. Thank you, Ms. Collymore. Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Thank you to everybody here. And I would be honored by your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we will have Judge Carmen Pacheco. And as Judge Pacheco comes up, I have a quick question for you, Renee. Who's on mute? Renee, you're on mute. But my quick question for you, Renee, is this, right? You've been part of the process of selecting a judge, right? And every year we have all these highly qualified people coming up to bat to be either civil court judges or elevated to Supreme Court. Real quickly, what are some of the things that you look for in order to get past the fact that not only are they highly qualified, how do I pick amongst these highly qualified individuals?
Character, character. You have to be able to hear someone and hear their story. Your hearts have to connect through humanity. Because like I said earlier, they all are highly educated, but guess what? There are educated dummies out there too, right? We know a lot of those. And so we want to make sure that when the person is speaking, that you can look and hear them from their heart. You have to hear from the heart, and they have to have something that they care about. Because if you care about something in your own life, if you care about your mom, if you care about your dad, if you care about your dog, that means that they will care about us. And that's what we want. We want judges who will care about us, the people.
Mhm. And I take it, in doing that, have you been disappointed in any of those
Not
people?
with any of the judges that I selected.
I mean, don't name names, but yes.
I'm not gonna name any names, but every judge that I am happy with, and I have been happy with, because that's how I select the judges, based on that, based on what they're saying from their soul. Because we know that you're smart, but I need to know what's in deep down in here.
Yes. Okay. So, as Carmen comes up, what are some of the things that you've seen so far tonight that have impressed you about our candidates? Because we do have a number of impressive candidates, without naming names, because we're not biased, at least not on this.
We are not biased. I mean, well, I can't name names, right?
No, please.
There are so many people that have come on tonight that are giving exactly what I'm looking for. The character.
Mhm.
Character makes who you are and what you're going to be on the bench.
Yes.
And so when I see them talking about different things that has to do with people and people and people and things to help to uplift the folks here in Brooklyn, that makes me proud, because I know they're going to do the best job possible.
Excellent. And I want to remind everyone who's listening in that all of the candidates presented here today were screened by the Judicial Screening Committee and found to be eligible. I think that's critically important because while we do look at the candidates' qualifications, we're not the ones making the ultimate. Well, we are making a decision, but we're not the ones determining their full qualifications. We do look for key things: their educational background, their experiences, the types of case that they're done. And at this moment, we have a very experienced candidate, the Honorable Carmen Pacheco. Judge Pacheco, welcome.
Thank you for the welcome, and thank you for all that you're doing right now. I thank the District Leader Anthony Beckford, you, District Leader Pierre, the Honorable Collmore. I see District Leader Michael Boomer, District Leader Fauche, Ceballos, Councilwoman Narcisse, and District Leader, and then the Vice Chair, our part now. Those are the ones that you've mentioned, and I'm really thrilled and happy to have this opportunity before the Brooklyn Democratic Club, and I thank the club for that and its members for attending. And it'll be a tremendous honor to earn your support. I am the supervising judge of the Civil Court of Kings County, and I'm also an active Supreme Court justice. I spent over 35 years prior to becoming a judge. I think that that's really where my heart is and what has made me a very good judge today. I spent over 35 years in the trenches in both the state and federal courts. and also made history as the founding member of the first Hispanic woman-owned law firm in New York, established in 1992 at One World Trade Center, and also made history when I became a judge to be the woman of Peruvian heritage, the first judge of Peruvian heritage to serve on the court. I am formerly the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association, and I think that that's important because in my entire life, I've also dedicated helping the community. I've always had Peter to pay for Paul. That's extremely important because the community, when I first was gifted to become an attorney, that's where my heart was. I did work on Wall Street. I wanted the marquee. I wanted to be able to learn from someone else and learn from the best in a sense, and then take that knowledge and then balance the inequities I saw between Wall Street, having been there, and Main Street. And I did that for decades. I dealt with people who we were talking earlier, and I was listening about people with deed theft. I had a case that I defended a family. She was a woman who had foster children. And what impacted me is that she adopted those foster children. And then she's living in this home, and they stole her house. So I put the papers together. I was in the case. They appealed my win, and the appellate division got it wrong. But you know who got it right? The U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, when they had them all arrested and found that there was a conspiracy going on. So I had it right, but the appellate division got it. It happens. Then there are other cases when you're defending people because, like I said, Peter had to pay for Paul because there isn't enough attorneys out there who are able to do the pro bono work. People say, oh, we're going to do pro bono work, but it's not enough sometimes. However, it is important that we do that. As a supervising judge, I bring all of those history of the 35 years, and I sit there and I see people, I hear people, I know who's there in my court. And I know that there's someone standing behind that attorney. And if they're pro se, I ensure that my court provides them with access to justice.
It's funny that you should finish off with that line because that was the question I was about to ask you. For housing court and consumer debt cases, credit, debt, rental arrears, medical debt, etc., they make up a large share of Brooklyn's civil court docket, and many defendants appear pro se. How would you approach ensuring access to justice for underrepresented litigants?
Recently, I'll tell you what happens. Now, sometimes some people do have an issue with being able to represent themselves, the pro se litigants, or they're people who have mental disabilities. They're not, they don't have that lawyer. Sometimes I want to jump off the bench and help them out, but I can't do that because I have to stay neutral and I have to stay who I am as a judge. However, being the supervising judge, I make sure that we have all the interpreters ready. They're only a phone call away or they're in-house. So that's important to have interpreters, ensuring that they're prepared, that they understand what's going on, making sure that the law is filed. I teach in the Judicial Institute, and that was one of the courses I just gave about consumer debt. And then as part of my teachings, there was an article that was written up by the Yale Law Report that talked about what judges shouldn't be doing. It was a look at in the Brooklyn courthouse as to what judges that they felt, asking judges, asking attorneys, asking litigants, everyone. And the one thing that they felt that was incorrect, they say, why do you ask someone who's in debt saying, oh, how can we resolve this? The question is, do you own that debt? Do you know about that debt? Do you, person who's in my court, will have standing, and do you own that debt, and how do you own it? It's not about let's work it out, because it may not be something that someone has and owns.
Thank you.
Maybe somebody else's.
Thank you, Your Honor. And the last question for you is this, right? We always hear the term judicial temperament, and I took a shot at describing it, but we'd like to hear from you the definition of judicial temperament for our lay folk and why it's important in the courts.
It is extremely important. I bring a whole host of 35 years of experience. I've sat before. I've gone through a series of countless judges because I've seen many judges, and you take takeaways. I like this judge. that judge. The one thing that you never do is embarrass an attorney. You don't embarrass a pro se litigant. You embarrass no one. Because if you do, you're telling them that they don't belong. That attorney has someone that he's standing in front of. If you punish that lawyer, you're punishing really the person that they're standing in front of. So that's something that you really shouldn't do. As far as temperament, you need to be fair. You have to be soft-spoken sometimes a little bit firm, but you need to have that way of being. Like, it's almost like negotiating, talking to someone, say, how we're going to get from here to there. And then let everyone understand, because if you're listening, your temperament is in check. And even when sometimes, like, you'll see the attorneys don't talk to each other, I'll say, just a moment, and I'll smile. And I said, you need to speak with me. You had an opportunity to speak with each other, but you need to speak to me. So I avoid that clash, because that happens. You're advocates. So the most important thing with judicial temperament is to rule sometimes with a smile, and rule with a soft voice, and rule with understanding, so that the person who's there is not going to get upset if they know that they've been heard and they've been seen. And I do both. I hear you, and I will always see you, because I've been there on the other side, and I've been there with the community that needs those attorneys.
Excellent. Thank you, Your Honor, Judge Carmen Pacheco, our last candidate, but certainly as supervising judge, not our least candidate. Thank you for coming, and we wish you well with your candidacy.
And thank you all so much. And I know how hard it is, and all the preparation that you have to do, and looking at the questions, and, you know, making sure that everyone attends. And I thank you so much for your time. And I do thank very much the Brooklyn Democratic Club and its members. Palante, like we say in Spanish.
Thank you. Okay, so Renee, we have an election coming up on November 3rd for the general, but I'm sure you, as we close out, you have some remarks for us.
Yes, I do. And I'm sorry for all of the effects on my screen. So, our closing remarks. We have Tuesday, November 3rd, our general election, the last day to register to vote or change an address. Voter registration deadline, Saturday, October 24th, 2026, online, in person, or received by mail if mailing. It must also be postmarked by this date per most sources. Though New York State's board lists October 24th for mail receipt too. Worth double checking your specific method on vote.nyc. Change of address deadline, Monday, October 19th, 2026. This is the last day to notify the Board of Elections of a moved address in time for it to be processed for the general election.
Oh, that's awesome. A little pro tip for those of you who are like extra determined, you can go down to the BOE office and get it done there and get it timestamped. If you get it timestamped, no problem, it's in the records. But we do have faith in the regular system. If you want to do snail mail, do snail mail. If you want to do online, do online. Thank you all for joining us. As we've said before, this is a very important forum. Your presence here represents thousands of people within your community and your district. So if there's any bit of information tonight that you can take to your neighbors, family, and friends here in the great borough of Brooklyn, Kings County, we hope that you will do that. And with that, thank you and have a good night.
Go Brooklyn!